Hare Krishna, and welcome to this week's virtual Sunday feast here at ISKCON Chicago, the home of Sri Sri Kishore Kishori. And on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, a big welcome to everyone. Very grateful to you for joining. The nice thing is, as the restrictions on gatherings in Illinois is rolling back, the days of the virtual Sunday feast are numbered. So we'll definitely communicate specific details as they become available. But the temple is planning to open in a, or open up in a more open way soon, but more specifics will be given as they become available. But just know that there is work being made in that direction. Next, I'll turn it over to tonight's singer of the Narasimha prayers. His name is Balabhadra. He's a student of Radhakund Mataji, who leads the Vamsi Vaishnav School of Music. She also coordinates the different singers that participate in the service for our Sunday feasts, and also is an extremely dedicated individual in training the youth in singing techniques and devotional bhajans and the basics of leading really amazing kirtans. So thank you so much, Balabhadra, for taking this on. I'll turn it over to you.
Namaste Narasimhaya
Thank you so much, Balabhadra, for that really lovely rendition. I'm going to now turn it over to our speaker this evening, His Grace Ajita Prabhu. And many of us may be familiar with Ajita Prabhu. For those of you that aren't, he's an extremely accomplished individual, and both personally and as well as a very deep and sincere devotee. And he has a long history with ISKCON Chicago, though Krishna had some plans to have him serve in Kolkata. So he's joining us at the bright and early hour of 4 a.m. to address all of us. So he's going to be continuing this Brilliant as the Sun series, taking us through the third canto, 22nd chapter. And he's called his talk, Living a Life of Abundance in Krishna Consciousness. thank you so much, Ajita Prabhu, for agreeing to speak with us. And I'll turn it over.
All right. Thank you so much, Ishadanandan Prabhu, for inviting me. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivtapada Kamalang Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sagan Raghunathanam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhanatams He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. All glories to all of you wonderful devotees of ISKCON Chicago. It's always nice to be back, to be connected to my family of ISKCON Chicago Vaishnavas. So the topic Ishadanandan gave me was Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 22, the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So in this topic, it does a lot about arranged marriage and that part. So I'm chose, because I'm not married myself and I don't have much realization of that topic. So I chose the latter part, which is talking about Swambhuva Manu as an opulent emperor and the life he led of Krishna consciousness in that opulence without getting contaminated by that opulence. But just to honor the first part, I'll just give a little bit about the so-called arranged marriage, because a lot of times this is something that is looked down upon by modern folks, that in India, parents decide who the kids should get married to. And it can be both, love marriage, arranged marriage, both have their pros and cons. And the best part is the Vedic system is super inclusive. So if you look at it in this situation, yes, Kardama Muni and Devahuti, their marriage is being proposed by Manu, and both are extremely qualified personalities. And Manu himself is very qualified. And generally, the reason why people oppose arranged marriage is because they think that, the girl is being forced into a marriage that she doesn't want to go. And that's really bad, and that shouldn't be the case. But a lot of times, that's not the case. And many of our ISKCON Chicago devotees have gone through arranged marriage, arranged by their mentor, senior Vaishnavas, spiritual masters, looking at the qualities. And I'm very happy to say most of the people I've seen married in my God family, as well as outside, they're happy. And they're beautifully growing in Krishna consciousness. But having said that, there is also the other side. If you look at the history of our civilization, there is the Swamvar ceremony, where the woman chooses the husband. Especially this is among the Kshatriya class. And sometimes, that can lead to, if the woman chooses somebody and it's not a choice that some prince likes, like, oh, you chose that person, why not me? There would be war that would break out. There will be sometimes abduction, like Krishna abducted Rukmini Devi. Of course, she wanted that. Her father also was very happy with that. Krishna was happy. So there are a lot of different things you see. And Vedic system, the best part about it is inclusive. And that transitions me into this latter part, which is the topic I chose, is living a life of abundance in Krishna consciousness. Now, I'm going to share my screen a little bit. This was the movement Srila Prabhupada started, that the Hare Krishna movement in every city, town, and village. This is the prediction of their lordships, right? That in every town and village, Lord Gauranga's name would be spread. But this is not an easy task, and it requires planning. It requires Krishna consciousness, and it also requires money. Srila Prabhupada said, now cooperate to place this Krishna conscious movement at the front of all others. That is my request, right? So Prabhupada really wanted it to be the most foremost movement in the world, spirituality. But we are perpetually, as we know, we are perpetually broke. ISKCON, except for India, everywhere else, ISKCON really doesn't have always the resources it needs. Just to give an example, this is the top part is the Church of Latter-day Saints, so the Mormons, right? $30 billion they earn from Mormon-run businesses like Dr. Pepper, and there are other businesses. And 30 billion comes in from the stock market. So they earn $60 billion. And that's how they can spread their religion. They can take care of the needs of the health of aging population in their community. They can build buildings. They can take care of kids going to college, providing them with the resources they need, providing all kinds of facilities to their community. And guess what? Our GBC budget, annual budget, is compared to that is $130,000. And this is not me, this is Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. We actually did a presentation together at ILS, and I got this number. So it's really tiny compared to what other organizations have. And yet we have a great responsibility that Srila Prabhupada gave us, right? Now, books are the basis. Purity is the force. Preaching is the essence. And utility is the principle. In a lot of times, devotees, I speak to devotees around the world, and I get approached because I'm an entrepreneur and I run an virtual incubation for startups. That how do I start my own business? Is it wrong to grow financially, wanting to be financially free, wanting to be opulent? And the answer is absolutely not. Utility is the principle. If that is what your propensity is, if that is what how you want to serve Krishna, that's totally fine. And here, it's really beautiful where you get to see that Manu was no small king. He was an emperor with the highest level of opulence. So I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump certain verses and then hold on. So here in text 33, it is being spoken that Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, after he got his daughter married, enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles, contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor. And early in the morning every day, he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart. Now we see this beautiful balance here, right? Manu, who's such a great personality, extremely, Krishna conscious, yet having an extremely opulent life. And if you look at throughout our history, there's Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Arjuna, Yudhishthira Maharaj, all these personalities are kings and opulent personalities who are also pure devotees. So, but somehow within ISKCON, I have seen, and I don't know if I'm the only one, if others have seen, but it is seen as a bad thing to be ambitious. It is seen as almost to feel guilty that you want to do something extraordinary with your life. Now, of course, we have learned from our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings that bhalo na khaibe, bhalo na poribe. That means like, we shouldn't eat too opulently, we shouldn't dress too opulently, we shouldn't live too opulently. But there are certain people who are not okay with that. For example, I lived in the temple for 3 months. Ishodanandan also lived there. He enjoyed every moment of it. For me, sleeping on the floor was not my cup of tea. And that lifestyle was not my thing. So Krishna House, was far more a better place for me. But different folks, different strokes. And that's where I come back to the fact that Vedic system is inclusive, not exclusive. It is not about, oh, if you fit in this box, you're awesome. If you don't fit in this box, you're chucked out. And but unfortunately, that tends to be the stereotype, right? Oh, you are this, and you shouldn't talk about, you're not a devotee because you have ambitions that are high. And this happened not just us ISKCON devotees, it happened to Gadadhar Pandit when he ended up in the house of Pundarika Vidyanidhi. He saw such great opulence, and this person is dressed so beautifully and with silk and whatnot, and this beautiful drinks and beautiful cutlery and beautiful cups, and everything is like gold, silver, opulent. And Gadadhar Pandit is like, I'm a lifelong brahmachari. What am I doing in his house? This doesn't feel right. And if I can remember correctly, it was Mukunda Datta who was accompanying him. And Mukunda Datta, just to show Gadadhar Pandit what kind of devotee Pundarika Vidyanidhi was, he just chanted Bhagavatam shlok, and Pundarika Vidyanidhi fainted in ecstasy, thinking of Krishna. I think it was, anyway, not getting too much in that story, but the point was Gadadhar Pandit realized what level of devotee this personality was, and eventually took initiation from him. And now Gadadhar Pandit is obviously Srimati Radharani, reincarnate Chaitanya Leela, and Pundarika Vidyanidhi is King Vishabhanu, who's the father of Radharani. But the point is, there is room for such personalities too. There's King Prataparudra, there's Ramananda Raya, right? Governor of the entire kingdom of King Prataparudra. So all kinds of personality. And then there is also Kolavicha Sridhar, who's Sudama reincarnate, right? Who doesn't want any opulence, who makes only 20 paisa a day or something like that with selling bananas, and his roof has more holes than straws. And he's also a glorious devotee. So there is an inclusive process that Krishna, has friends who are here, friends who are there. So again, my focus today is about those folks who want to have an extraordinary lifestyle. And I just want to say that it is totally okay. Now, one time we were in ISKCON Chicago. There was a lecture by Yogeshwar Prabhu, and I really appreciate his practical lectures. There was one Mataji, one of my god sisters actually, she asked a question saying, Yogeshwar Prabhu, I have a question. I feel the need for recognition. Is that a bad thing? How do I get over it? And Yogeshwar Prabhu said, well, do something recognizable for Krishna, get recognized, and as you go through that process, Krishna will slap you and put you in place, and you will get corrected. I loved it. Because yes, why pretend to have this pure devotee syndrome? I'm here, but I think, scriptures say here, so I should pretend to be this. And there's nothing more dishonest than that, right? And I have seen it with my life. I have always been a different kind of devotee compared to everybody else. Cannot play the mridanga, cannot do book distribution, cannot do anything useful that, in the temple environment that you see. In fact, I was criticized by a lot of brahmacharis. When I was living in the temple, my spiritual master gave me a lot of services that required this and a laptop. And I would be in the gift store all day long, doing service, but it would seem like I am doing something else. Right? And I would be criticized for it. And that's okay, because I was under the shelter of my mentor, my spiritual master, and it didn't matter what other stuff. But the point is, why was I being criticized? Because I was different. I was not the guy who was going every day out on Harinam. Although you're living in the temple, you're not going out every day on Harinam. You're not doing this, you're not doing that, right? And as ISKCON evolves, we're going to attract scientists, we're going to attract dancers, we're going to attract people from government, and we cannot expect everybody to do pot washing, everybody to go out on books, everybody to do the same things that we think is the cut and dry formula for becoming a pure devotee, right? George Harrison wanted to join the temple, but Prabhupada said, no, you be George Harrison. You go out on stage and you chant Hare Krishna, and seeing you, people will chant Hare Krishna. And till date, that is happening. People are reading the biography of George Harrison, and they're finding out about Krishna conscious movement, and they're joining the movement. And we have had devotees in the past who have joined just by reading George Harrison's book or his biography or his movie that came out about him. Steve Jobs, that one line he mentioned in that Stanford speech, that I would have one good meal every Sunday walking to the Hare Krishna temple. That has been such a tremendous impact. One line from Steve Jobs, tremendous impact on prasadam distribution. Like, whoa, this organization was supporting Steve Jobs when he was a nobody. And that is now a $1 trillion company that he built. So the point is, as we grow, we have to accept diversity. We have to accept that different people are different, and they all belong in Krishna's bouquet. Like when we offer a bouquet, there are different flowers in that bouquet. And some flowers are red, some are yellow, some are fragrant, some are not. But Krishna loves all of them, and he loves variety, just like his girlfriends, right? Each girlfriend is different. Each gopi is different. They have different qualities. Some are feisty, some are very submissive, and Krishna likes all of them, right? So similarly, within our devotee community, one of my services has become now, since that ILS speech, is helping devotees transition into entrepreneurship. If you want to be your own boss, helping them transition. And generally speaking, this is what I hear. Oh, Prabhu, I want to start a business. It's going to do with cow dung and cow this, and it's going to be organic farming. And these are software engineers. And I'm like, Prabhu, when was the last time you went to a farm or took care of a cow? Never. So you think you will, after doing 20 years of software development, you're going to build a farm business or a cow business and you're going to survive? Really? And that is where things get wrong, because you have this desire to be an entrepreneur, be your own boss, but then you're like, Krishi Go Raksha, right? This is the only way. This Bhagavad Gita says, Vaishyas, Krishi Go Raksha. So there's no other thing. Hello, we're in Kali Yuga. You take Satya Yuga qualities and you confine Kali Yuga folks into that. I mean, the Vedic system is on its head, it's upside down, right? And you try to confine us to that situation. Guess what's going to happen? People are going to get frustrated. They're going to be like, Krishna consciousness doesn't work. I feel stifled and I'm leaving this movement. And that happens. We've been talking about marriages. Again, I don't have evidence to support it, but I've heard from sannyasis that ISKCON has a divorce rate of apparently 70%, which is far higher than the common society. And why so? I did a little bit of research, if I may say. So I asked a lot of people. And one thing that was very clear is, again, the scriptures are here, Prabhupada's purports are here, and we are here. And we always think we're here. And there is sometimes the husband wants this, the wife wants that. And there's a mismatch. Purport says you cannot, no illicit relationship. Why are you holding my hand? Why are you wanting to giving me a hug? Oh, this is too bad. Material, sense gratification. Oh, I just watched a movie. Oh my God, I'm going to go to hell, right? So, and this leads to frustration. Maybe one person is really dedicated and sincere. The other person is not ready for it. And both have to work it out together. We have our pace in Krishna consciousness. We have our speed in Krishna consciousness. Not all people are going to be going at the same speed. And I really appreciate this couple, Preeti Mataji and I forget their initiative name, sorry. But Preeti Mataji and her husband, they have been so sincere in serving the Chicago community for 2 decades or more. And yet, they waited for initiation for such a long time and finally, took that initiation. But the thing is, again, beautiful husband-wife relationship, beautiful couple, but the paces were different. And I'm sorry I'm taking this freedom to say it, but it's actually a glorification. But how beautifully they, kind of worked out their pace, and they got initiated after their own children without worrying about, what will people think? This is another feather to my cap, etc., etc. And that is Vaishnava quality, right? lot of times this happens. Husband and wife are not on the same pace. Sometimes the husband starts slow, wife has already taken up speed, and husband, once they take up speed, they might cross the wife. But it's not a competition. Nobody's keeping score, right? So it's important to understand the inclusive process of the Vedic system, where it's for everyone, it's for all kinds of people. When we understand it, then we remember Srila Prabhupada's last instruction: cooperate together, plan properly, and thereby the goal is whatever vehicle we have, to use that to move towards Krishna. To serve Krishna is the most important part. Now, we all have different bodies, different psychophysical natures, etc. But the point is, are we moving towards Krishna? Just to give you an example, again, from my life, I remember when Ishodanandan and I were starting our startup, I used to be a big show off, right? Still up, but not as much. So in the Chicago Tribune, a news article came out, and I brought the newspaper to the temple. I was showing devotees that I really like. And then one day, few days later, actually, Prabhuji was in the middle. There was Gajendra Moksha Prabhu on that side and me on this side. And he asked me, said, "So what is it that you do, Ajita Prabhu?" And I was new entrepreneur. I was like, I want to talk about all the great things I'm doing. And he was a professor at Northwestern. So I was like, oh, at Northwestern, we won this $25,000, we won the first place in this business plan competition. And I heard Prabhuji very gently say, "And there he goes." And I stopped mid-sentence. I was like, whoa, I was showing off. That's not nice. I shouldn't do this. And for the rest of whatever number of years, I think after that, maybe 8-9 years, I never talked about being an entrepreneur. Anybody asked me, what do you do in Chicago? I work. That's it. That was my short answer. Now I came back to India, and here people, Googled me and found out. So the devotees here started introducing me and using my name and my corporate credentials. And they were able to get an audience full of 1,000 people, 1,500 people, to come and hear. These are young students who want to be entrepreneurs. And they're like, Prabhu, don't come in dhoti kurta tilak, wear suits. And we want them to hear from you, and when they come, you embed Krishna consciousness in your speech. And I did that. And they were like, their Discover Yourself courses were getting filled like left, right, and center. They're like, until date, that's actually the case with a lot of Indian devotees invite me. People see me as a CEO. I talk about entrepreneurship and embedding Bhagavad Gita, principles into them, as well as quoting Bhagavad Gita. And people are like, whoa, I want to know about Bhagavad Gita. And they sign up for the courses. And then their devotional journey start. Many of them are chanting. Many of them are growing. Now, once I saw that change, I came back to Chicago, Krishna House, and I stopped wearing dhoti kurta tilak. I started promoting myself as who I am professionally. And you won't believe me, our attendance in our college program grew by 400%. And I was like, whoa, I was missing out. There's a gift Krishna has given me. Let me use it in Krishna's service. And that is exactly what you see with Swayambhuva Manu, right? He is this great opulent king. And he used that as a way to set an example for others to see, look, as Bhagavad Gita says, Yadit Acharati Sreshtas, Tatta Deva. So those who are the Sreshtas, those who are the leaders, seeing them, others follow. And even so many thousands and thousands of years later, we're talking about Manu, we're talking about Prahlad Maharaj, we're talking about Dhruva Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, the Maharajas, the kings. They were setting example how they were using their opulence to attract attention and showcase a lifestyle of Krishna consciousness. And even today, we have great personalities like that, who are very opulent materially, and they're using that to attract attention and showcase a life of Krishna consciousness. Ambarish Prabhu or Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. There are so many devotees who are showcasing that, and seeing them, people can see, this is how you work, and this is how you don't get contaminated. So I'm going to go to the next verse, text 34. So thus Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere, right? And just to give you the example, and now going back to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's this picture, my spiritual master loves to talk about this picture because this is Vrindavan. He's a sannyasi. And if you see, he's wearing a very opulent coat or jacket. He is in a very opulent car. And back in those days, cars were rare and few. And as Bhaktisiddhanta would roam around in Vrindavan in that car, there'd be people running after the car just to see the car. And as few people would gather up, Bhaktisiddhanta would be like, okay, stop the car. And he would get up and he would preach. And he would use, that opportunity to gather the audience around and speak about Krishna consciousness. And that is the beauty of it, right? So we all have different gifts. Some people can sing very well. Some people can dance very well. Some people can preach very well. Some people can earn a lot of money, but isn't the preacher type. Some people can be a doctor. The Hare Krishna TV is run by a doctor. I met him. And I was shocked. I mean, this man makes a lot of money in a month, but he drives a car that is like at least 7 to 8 years old. His wife and him, they have a second-hand car. The house, they have only one room for themselves. The rest of them are literally 40 video editors editing videos. They have a TV channel they started. And they're preaching in ways you cannot believe, but he's a doctor. And when I was talking to him, he's actually in the middle of 2 surgeries. He's like, from one surgery, I'm going to move to the next one. In the middle, I have 15 minutes. And we were chatting along. I'm like, Prabhu, I shouldn't bother you. Like, no, Prabhu, this is my life. This is how I do things. When I have to preach, there's always like this 15 minutes and I'll do some small speaking engagement between 2 surgeries. And I do surgeries throughout the day because that's what I'm good at. And the money that comes from it, that what goes into Hare Krishna TV and ISKCON Desire Tree. And, if you look at it, their YouTube channel, millions of subscribers. They have so many TV channels, so many channels around the country, millions of people watching and learning Krishna consciousness just from Hare Krishna TV. He's a doctor, right? So there is no end to how you can contribute to this movement if you are in line with your own psychophysical nature, and I've been very fortunate to have Nityananda Pran Prabhu as my mentor. That when Yashodanandan and I were new in Krishna consciousness and starting our startup and fundraising and all of that, I remember both of us went to him and said, "This is wrong, right? We're going for earning money and raising millions of dollars, and this is not Krishna conscious, right? We should stop this and become like brahmacharis." He's like, "No. Go on." And this was recession 2009, and we were getting rejected by venture capitalists one after another. And again, we said we should quit. Krishna is probably not wanting us to do this. Like, no, I'll tell you when to quit. You keep going. And I'm so grateful he did. We eventually raised money. We built a product. We saw the success that we did, and I'm so happy. And later on, when I asked him, "Why didn't you stop me?" He said, "If I stopped you, there'd be a big gaping hole in your heart. And when you're 40 years old, you'd be like, I could have done something useful with my life, but I didn't do it." And I tell you an unfortunate story in India. There was this boy at IIT Kharagpur, which is one of the premier institutes in India. He came up with a technology, which is like gesture controls. You move your fingers and you can move a drone around and all that. And as he was building his startup, his innovation, he was living in like the Krishna House equivalent, which is called BASE in India. And his mentor told him, "No, you should not do this. This is all Maya, And this boy quit his startup, his innovation, his patent. He gave it to his co-founders. By the time he graduated, his co-founders sold that company for 50 crores, which is in US dollars, several $million, maybe $8 or $9 million, something around that, right? 50 crores. And this boy got into depression. He's like, I could have done that. I come from a lower middle class family. That could have been me. And he stopped chanting. And to revive him back in Krishna consciousness took a lot of effort of a lot of devotees over a lot of period of time. But he was damaged forever, right? He felt that he had that opportunity that he couldn't do. And these devotees stopped him from doing it. And it set a very bad example to other IIT students who were like, whoa, is this what Krishna consciousness is? You become a monk, or you live a very simple life and that's it. If you have abilities, you still have to wash pots. Unfortunately, that has been the case for a lot of lives. And that is not how Srila Prabhupada built this organization. That is not how, at least, our leaders, the GBC, sees it. Again, back to Yogeshwar Prabhu, that talk I was talking about, on my way to driving him to the temple, when I was asking him, how do you see ISKCON in the next, or I think he asked me, how do you see ISKCON in the next 20, 25 years? And I was like, more 16 rounders, more initiated devotees, becoming pure devotees and whatnot. And he said, I said, well, what was that? Please explain the He's like, are you sure you want to listen? I'm like, yes, I want to hear. It's like, well, it's wonderful to have core devotees who chanting 16 rounds, getting initiated and all that wonderful stuff. But it is also important to have our influence in all aspects of society, whether it's NASA, whether it's the government, whether it's the doctors community, whether it's people should respect Srila Prabhupada's teachings. People should at least know Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Even if they don't follow it 100%, we need to have friends of ISKCON. And for that, we need to set examples of exemplary devotees doing amazingly well in society as well as their spiritual life. And that's where that balance comes in. And that's where Swayambhuva Manu comes in. Again, showcasing with his example that although, I'll go back to that slide, that thus Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king, although absorbed in material happiness. He was being woken up by singers, and he was going to sleep. There was opulence, there was wife, kids, palace, everything was there, but he was hearing Krishna Katha, right? He was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. The atmosphere was Krishna conscious. Although it's a palace, the atmosphere was Krishna conscious. Like Srila Prabhupada said, not just a temple, but every household should be a temple. Every household should have an altar. And that way Vrindavan will reside in all over the world, in your houses, right? That atmosphere is very, very important. Then one can be having one's material ambition and not get bogged down by Maya. Rather, they can use that in service to the Lord, right? And like Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, use it as service to the Lord. So when you grow, ISKCON grows. And when ISKCON grows, you grow. So there's a symbiotic relationship. We being part of this wonderful community that Srila Prabhupada gave us, it is important that we individually grow and we collectively also grow. So individual ambition has its place. And the collective ambition is every town and village becoming the forefront organization as Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be, right? Becoming the, cooperate to place this Krishna consciousness movement at the front of all others. That is my request. So going to the next verse. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life consisting of Manvantar era, that is, I think 72 yoga cycles, a long time, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Again, another community from our Chicago devotee, Shri Vallabha Prabhu, somebody I have really admired and appreciated, and he has always been that person who's materially very successful and spiritually very grounded. And one time I asked him, Prabhu, you're in a CXO level and a multi-billion-dollar company. What does your Krishna consciousness look like? How do you do your sadhana? Because I never see you in the temple. I rarely see you at festivities. And he's like, Prabhu, I cannot give so much time. But one thing I do for sure is I wake up early in the morning, I finish my japa, and I worship my deities. And that's my service. And I do that as diligently as I possibly can. And I've seen the same thing with many other devotees where they have a very strong sadhana. They don't try to make it at the level of a temple or at the level of expanding it to a level where it's not manageable, right? Many times I hear devotees during certain special months, like, oh, I'm doing 64 rounds and I'm doing this tapasya and that tapasya. And they look at me, and sometimes I'm asked, "What are you doing, Prabhu?" As if there's a competition. Like I'm doing 60 rounds, and I'm giving my 100% like I do every day, whether it's the Kartik month or it's something else. Of course, if I'm in yatra, I'll probably try to chant a little bit more than that. But point is, when I'm in my day-to-day life, my life is my sadhana. I'm building. When I started Kolkata Ventures, this company, it was very clear. This company is meant for a very particular purpose. We will attract the entrepreneurs, the CEOs of the world, and we will slowly introduce them to Krishna consciousness. And whatever resources Krishna has given me, very little resources, but whatever he's given me, that's what I'm doing. We have these entrepreneurs who come for incubation funding and all of that, startup entrepreneurs who are bright, who are mostly atheistic, who are rebellious, and then slowly they get introduced to Krishna consciousness, because that's what I speak on in all my conversations. And then Philosophy Friday, every Friday evening at 7:30 p.m., all these entrepreneurs who are interested to know more, they get on board. They hear Krishna Gatha, and many of them are becoming vegetarians, chanting 16 rounds. Some of them are ready for initiation, and it's growing. It's growing every month. More and more entrepreneurs, more and more. And guess what? These are leaders. Goal is, when they become Krishna conscious, their employees are also going to get influenced, right? Like our employees in my family business and in my other businesses, there's Radha Madhav in our factory, in our offices, and there's prasadam distribution that we do whenever there's a festival. They know, they're much more aware of Krishna consciousness than before. And some people take some interest, some people don't. But at least, like Yogeshwar Prabhu said, we're creating friends of ISKCON. We are at least letting them know there is an alternate life to just sense gratification. And you can be successful and be happy and be Krishna conscious. That's what this chapter of Bhagavatam, that's what to me, that's what it speaks about. Swayambhuva Manu's example, that such a great king who has all the luxuries of life, but yet he has strong chanting, strong hearing, he's writing it down, and he's remembering Krishna. And that is important. For me, staying in the temple was not my way of having the highest optimal way of remembering Krishna, because I got sick the first week, and it was like, I was like, what's going on, not getting enough sleep, etc., etc. But when I was in Krishna house, pretty much 8 hours a day I was preaching, going out there and bringing in students and constant preaching. 5 days a week we were having events. I thrived there. So it's important that we all figure out what is our path in Krishna consciousness with the help of Vaishnava guidance, right? We shouldn't look at others and be like, oh, this is how it happens, right? This is how, this is the best way. No, we all have our unique way. Don't go for the popular way. Go for the right way, right? There's difference between being right and being popular. Because we see the mridanga player, the shirtless mridanga player with the abs, and like, oh, Mayapuris, they're the ones. We want to be like them. Not all of us can do that. Or this preacher, oh, he speaks so beautiful, I wish I could speak like him. Maybe that's not the gift we have, right? So we have to find what Krishna has given us. And there are amazing people who are like Kusumika Mataji, I forget her initiative name, I'm sorry. But I have heard that every day she cooks for Radharani, every day is a new meal. The way she does her deity worship is absolutely amazing. And I've seen her. I absolutely adore her devotion. And that's who she is. For years and years and years, she has been doing deity worship, right? Amazing personality. There are people who are amazing at dressing the deities. For years and years and years, that's what they're doing. There was a Mataji, Prabhupada disciple. She was a gift store manager for 40 years. That's all she did. Fantastic. And then there are the people, like Yashodanandana. When he takes up a service, he does it with so much sincerity. I mean, to get him to the temple was the hardest part. But once he got there, right, that's it. We were Jay and Vijay, greeting guests at Sunday feast, no matter what happens, right? And now he's running the Sunday feast so beautifully. So all glories to such Vaishnavas who are consistent in their service using the gift that we... And again, going to Yashodananda's example, in his workplace, his way of preaching was every day he would steal some burfis from the temple, right? And he put it in there in his office, and people were eating this prasadam and be like, wow, what is this? And if one day he would forget, they'd be like, where are those sweets? Where are those sweets? Those sweets are so addictive. They're so good. And that is the highest those people can get to Krishna, appreciating Krishna Prasham, letting that enter their hearts. And guess what? They are going to get Krishna conscious. They are going to become pure devotees very soon. This lifetime or next, but there's nothing, the amount of burfis they've had, that is directly from the plate of Kishore Kishori. How much better preaching can you do? So that's his way of preaching, right? So we are all different, and we need to acknowledge our strengths. And rather than confining ourselves, it's important that we flourish in Krishna consciousness. We joyfully walk towards Krishna, and we bring as many people as possible towards this Harinam Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this joyful movement. Prabhupada always said this is entertainment. So if you're feeling depressed in Krishna consciousness, if you're feeling guilty in Krishna consciousness, if you're feeling judged in Krishna consciousness, there is something to look at, right? There is important that you take Vaishnav guidance, you talk to your spiritual master or somebody who's a devotee that you trust, and figure out what is happening in your heart. There will be people who will say good things, and there will be people who will say bad things, but that should not influence or affect us, because it's a voluntary organization. People come from all sorts of lives and all sorts of backgrounds, and that's okay for them to judge. But if we feel not inspired in our Krishna consciousness, there's something wrong here, right? Again, this is the teachings from my mentor. Whenever I would come to him like, oh, this devotee said this and that devotee said that, it's like, what does it matter? Is Krishna happy? Are you doing your service properly? Yes. Is Krishna happy? Is he in your heart? Does he know? Yes. Then what else matters? True that. Forget everything else. Right? Of course, that doesn't mean you don't care about devotees, of course. But appreciation or rejection, that's not the motivation for doing the service. The motivation of doing service is, I will do my 100% for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. And if that is getting diluted, there is a problem. Let's fix that. Let's fix what is going on. Where is the sincerity lacking? Where is the sadhana lacking, right? Whenever I have a problem, I talk to Yashodanandan, like, oh, I'm not feeling inspired. It's like, have you chanted today? Have you chanted today? Chant. And then on phone, we'll be chanting together, right? And of course, as you know, the holy name has its power, and I would be like, okay, thanks. I think I know what to do, right? And that's the beauty of friendship. That's the beauty of association. So Srila Prabhupada has not only made an inclusive system, but a beautiful association of devotees where we should have senior association, equal association, and junior association. We receive from the seniors, we get inspired by each other, we get corrected by each other on the equal level, and we give to the new devotees, who look up to us. And thereby, we are fully nourished in our Krishna consciousness. We feel, when you receive and you give and you're able to share, that's when the circuit is complete. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then you can Smaranam. You can remember Krishna, right? You hear, you speak, you remember Krishna, and you can be like Swambhuva Manu. You can be having a life that's like that or life like this, but you can be Krishna conscious. Again, another wonderful leader from Chicago community, Jagadananda Prabhu. He's now in India. One line he told me that helps me so much whenever I'm in distress mode. He says, Ajita, always remember, whenever you're going through a difficult time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, Jeev Krishna Das, E Vishwas, Korle Toar Dukkhanai. When there's a problem, generally we think about ourselves. Just think, how can I serve Krishna in this situation? Right? And as you can imagine, running business, there's always a fire, there's always a problem. And that can consume you, and that can take over your chanting and everything. And when you stop and pause and be like, Jeev Krishna Das, E Vishwas, Korle Toar Dukkhanai, immediately the thought comes, how can I serve Krishna in this situation? What quality can I grow in this situation? Is it patience? Is it tolerance? Is it respect? Is it something else? My dear Krishna, in this situation, what can I learn? How can I get close to you? Because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for a business or for charity or for this and that. Those are things. Those are what my vehicle is fueled by. But my vehicle is moving towards your lotus feet. So my dear Krishna, please inspire me. Tell me in this situation, how can I use this to move towards you, right? and that brings me, at least for me, that works very beautifully. It brings me back in perspective of what life is meant to be, right? Just taking some notes here. Let me see if I'm missing anything. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I'm going to talk a little bit about him. Our first car, I think first car we called it, what did we call it? Pushpaka Viman. And second car was Bhaktivinoda Mobile, correct? Anyway,
just both of us.
Yeah, and the reason why, and again, it was Yashodanandana, he named it Bhaktivinoda Mobile because we are both very inspired by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he used resources at his disposal in serving Krishna. He was very, very resourceful. And so for those of you who don't know Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is Prabhupada's grand spiritual master. So Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur's father, actually, and a great devotee of the Lord. So great acharya with 10 children. He was he had 2,000 bhakti rickshaws under his leadership. He was a district magistrate of Puri, and he was so empowered that what other judges, other district magistrates would do in 8 hours, he could do in 2 hours. And he was so well respected by the British government that he was allowed to just work for 2 hours and then do whatever he wants, which time he would be preaching, writing books, and doing his sadhana and everything else, because he was so efficient. And so we named the car Bhaktivinoda Mobile because we wanted to always be reminded of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's ability to use everything, every resource in Krishna's service. And that car did a lot of service for prasadam distribution. Krishna lunch started with that car, right? Packed with prasadam. And we would bring students, packed car with students, lying on top of each other illegally, coming to Sunday feast. So we used those things, whatever we were given in full capacity for preaching. And that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur this example really shows us. Somebody would steal something, right? And being the judge, district magistrate, he would say, okay, here's the choice. You can chant 64 rounds for the next 6 months, or you can be in prison for the next 6 months. What do you want? Right? And of course, the thief would be like, chant 64 rounds. And then he would put somebody in charge to make sure they are actually chanting 64 rounds. So he was using creative punishments, to bring a thief into Krishna consciousness. And the British government said, hey, it works. This man, whatever he does, it's working. So we're not going to touch him. We're not going to talk anything about him, right? You do what you want. And that's the beauty again. When you perform, you do well, people trust you. When you are successful in whatever you do, as a doctor, as an engineer, as a software developer, as a scientist, whatever you do, if you're successful, people appreciate you, they trust you. And when you say, your secret to success is Krishna consciousness, like, I want to know more about it. What do you eat? Oh, Krishna prasadam. Or as we say in Chicago, yoga-friendly food, right? Krishna lunch. So, I want to know more about it. What is yoga-friendly food? What is sattvic food, right? I want to know how you do what you do. And that's even better preaching, because now you have the trust. And when you say something, it carries weight. And now your hard work in becoming successful and whatever you're doing, your opulent life has some meaning, because that is attracting people's attention, and you're using that attention to help them at least get exposed to Krishna consciousness. Whether to take it or not is up to them. Let me see if I'm anything else, any other slides I have. So just wanted to kind of remind ourselves, of course, we're all chanting, but remind ourselves that what we have is the best, right? After searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age than the chanting of Hare Krishna. That's it. That is the biggest thing. And, this is, again, all inclusive. In Kali Yuga, we don't have time. We don't have patience. We cannot be underwater for 10,000 years meditating. So for what can we do? The most powerful mantra, the easiest thing has been given to us. We chant our 16 rounds, and that empowers us as an individual, and that allows us, whatever comes as a fruit of it, we use it in service to Krishna. That is the goal. Service to Krishna, pleasure of Vaishnavas is the important part. Stay in touch with me. I'm Ajita Das, and I'm also known as Avelo Roy. That's my legal name. You can. There are a lot of videos I've made on Krishna consciousness. that are there on my YouTube channel, YouTube/Veloroy. If you have questions, you can ask me outside the Zoom session, also on Instagram. So stay in touch. And if there's any way I can serve you, any questions you might have beyond this session, happy to be of service. Ishodanandana?
All right. Well, thank you for that. And I just a few things. One, to clarify that Ajita, when things are difficult, I'm usually not so callous just to say, have you chanted today?
You do that. Of course you do that. Sometimes you're kind though. Sometimes you're more like, okay, tell me what's going on. But generally it's like, have you chanted today?
All right. So question just on, well, first of all, in appreciation, that you talked about abundance, not just in terms of, we'll just say material wealth, but abundance in terms of relationships. So talking about a very broad and inclusive picture of what is Krishna consciousness. So an abundance of devotees, abundance of different personalities, perspectives, etc. And concluding with the abundance of mercy by being given this highest thing, this holy name, chanting of the holy name. So just an appreciation for a very abundant view of abundance. But just a question to go into more on the physical or material wealth side. It's like, what do you see as a guiding principle? Because Manu, he had that qualification to be able to handle that. So what would you say to somebody who has that strong propensity, doesn't have that qualification? And I think you kind of alluded to it with the story of Yogeshwara Prabhu, but if you could just expand on that a little bit more, because I'm guessing that's something on many people's minds.
Yeah, Vaishnav guidance. And that's, you and I have both have done that perpetually when making important decisions in life, taking Vaishnav guidance from, we might not have the qualification, but there are Vaishnavas who do, and taking their guidance in terms of, hey, I am buying this house, or I'm buying this car, or I'm marrying this person, or I'm making this important life decision. How should I utilize my resources? What is the right thing to do, rather than going all out and being crazy? Do I have the right validation? Am I rationalizing? A lot of times what happens is, it's okay, I'm doing this. So we know how to rationalize also. So it's important to be accountable to a mentor or a spiritual master, somebody we trust, a senior devotee, who can tell us, Prabhu, you are rationalizing. I don't think you need this. This is, you're kind of going, out of line here. And that keeps us grounded. Like, okay, I see what is happening here. Right, that brings us back to focus. And also, one of the why one goes down the spiral is because pride comes in the heart. Right, Maya has a very strong influence. So again, having Vaishnavas that trust us, and like I said, friends like Ishodanandana who are equals, they kind of like, hey Prabhu, you're behaving like this. It seems like you're getting puffed up. Calm down. Right, and that's very, very powerful. Unfortunately, when you don't have that, you're very, very confidently moving in the wrong direction, and nobody said to stop you. So having that Vaishnav support system, where you have seniors, you have equals, you have juniors, that helps you stay nourished, stay corrected, stay on the path, and whatever you're doing, but having that goal, that the path towards Krishna's lotus feet, so you don't get deviated from it.
Nice. All right. And this may be a similar response, but I'll present it as well, that it's a very easy sometimes to take a narrow perspective using the word should. So this is what a devotee should look like or should behave. And so how would you recommend that we as individuals keep a broad perspective of what constitutes a devotee? Because with a very narrow perspective comes a whole host of problems. So how, just to remind, like, I'll just speak first person, how do I remind myself of that broad perspective just in interacting with devotees or friends of the society, etc., while staying true to those core devotional principles?
Yeah, again, I'll repeat my mentor, Nityananda Pran Prabhu, where what I have seen him, how he sees other people is, this is a pure devotee in the making. at heart they're a pure devotee. And when you keep that consciousness, and again, when Ishodanandan and I would be greeting at the door as Jay and Vijay, you'd see all kinds of people coming, from sannyasis coming in to people with mohawks that won't even fit the door limit. There are people who are with purple hair. There are people who are homeless. There are people who are, all kinds of people. And the thing is, we were told again, Krishna's guests. These are Krishna's guests. So how would you receive Krishna's guests? Right? What kind of hospitality would you show Krishna's guests? And that's how, when you see the world, that they've come to Krishna consciousness, oh my God, they're Krishna's guests. I'll give a short anecdote. Krishna House, we used to do these events, and by 9 o'clock we would shut it off, and by 10 o'clock everybody would go to sleep. But two students walked into Krishna House at around 10 o'clock. We almost, altar was closed, everything was over, and they came, and we had little prasadam. They're like, oh, we heard there's free food here. and those two devotees came, and I was like, yeah, I'll serve you. They came, and they were eating. This boy and girl, they were eating, and I was chanting in the temple area, the altar area. And I was like, suddenly I was reminded of this statement. They're Krishna's guests. I'm like, I shouldn't be here chanting. I should be there with them. They're Krishna's guests, and I should be there to serve them. So I immediately went to them. I said, is there anything I can do for you? I sat down with them. We started talking. And this boy named Harish, he started asking me all kinds of questions about what happened after the Mahabharata, the Battle of Kurukshetra, and da-da-da-da. And I was very impressed. He had nice questions, and I kept on asking him to come back to Krishna House. And today he is a wonderful devotee doing amazing service in Michigan. When he was at IIT, he did tremendous service for the Krishna House, for Krishna Lunch, for Krishna Talks. Raised $20,000 from the university to pay off some of the debts for Krishna House, and it's just amazing the kind of service he still continues to do. He's amazing kirtaniya, but I would have lost that opportunity if I was there chanting while he was eating, right? The moment I remembered, oh, Krishna's guests, I cannot just not give them attention because they came at 10 o'clock just for the prasadam. Sat there and my God, what an opportunity, what a devotee, what a person, right? So that's what. That when we remember this Krishna's in the heart, they're in the process, they're pure devotees at heart, and they're Krishna's guests, then we give them that level of attention, and hopefully that spark of Krishna consciousness will become a blazing fire with love and consistent love and consistent patient nurturing.
Wow. I don't think there are any other questions that I'm seeing or that I had listed down. So I want to thank you very, very much, Ajita Prabhu. And I must say, I'm very impressed with your energy, especially given the hour that it is there.
What a passion.
But very grateful to you for taking us through this chapter and giving your very unique flavor to this Brilliant as the Sun series, as always. So
and just want to also appreciate your service at Sunday Feast. I know it's coming to an end, but at the end of this month, but the fact that you're doing that, you've done it consistently for so long, it's amazing. And I just want to glorify you for it. It's, to do any service consistently for years, it takes a lot of patience and sadhana. I don't know. I hope you continue. If that's, I saw your reactions. I'm hoping you're going to continue. But in case it doesn't happen, and I don't get to say this publicly, but your Sunday Feast service is very inspiring, and at least for me.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And for unfortunately, I didn't think to mute you several times during your class. But for everybody else still here, please join us next Sunday. We continue this virtual Brilliant as the Sun series, and it will be given by His Grace Ujjvala Prabhu. So, Hare Krishna.